In this video, you're going to learn how to make a pet following system just like this, so that every time a pet is added, it automatically sorts out, and if a pet is removed, it also automatically sorts out. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is, well, obviously get your pet, and I have this pet Similar X model that I got from the toolbox. So once you have your pet and it's all ready to go, you just basically want to make sure that it is anchored, and you want to make sure that Can Collide is off in the properties menu. So now that you have a pet that you want to follow you, we're just going to go ahead and drag it into the replicated storage, and I'm going to rename this to pet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a folder inside of the workspace, and this is basically where we're going to store our pets when they're actually in the game. So we could rename this folder to player pets. So now we actually want a way to be able to add our pet into this folder. So let's just create another part, and we're going to rename this to give pet, just like this. And let's go ahead and scale it up, and let's just make it green. Also, let's make sure it is anchored. Okay, so inside of here, let's actually add in a click detector as well. So now that we have this set up, what we could do is add a script into here. And then basically, we're just going to reference our give pet part, which is going to be the script.parent. And then we could reference the click detector, which is just a click detector inside of the give pet part. So now we could do cd.mouseclick connect to a function. And basically every time we click this, we just want to add a pet that we have in our replicated storage to this folder. So first let's reference the pet, which is in the replicated storage. So we can say local pet is equal to game.replicated storage, wait for child pet. So inside of here, we could say local pet clone is equal to pet clone. And then we'll do pet clone.parent is equal to player game.workspace, wait for child, player pets. Real quick guys, if you guys have been wanting to learn how to code on Roblox, check out the first link in the description. Okay, so now every time we click this, a pet should be added into the folder, which it is being added. Now all we want to do is, when they're actually added to the folder, we want to make them follow us. So before we exit out of the script, what we actually want to do is we want to check if number of game.workspace wait for child player pets get children is greater than or equal to 9, then return end. Because we don't want more than 9 pets at once following us, because then it'll break the script. So now that we have this added, we can go ahead and leave. And let's go ahead and open up a local script and put it into our starter player scripts. So we're going to do local script right here. The first thing we're going to do is we're basically going to sort every single pet inside of this folder. And the way we're going to do that, and we can rename the script to pets, we can reference the player pets folder. So we'll say local player pets folder is equal to game.workspace, wait for child, player pets. And what we're going to do is basically just assign each pet a place value inside of the folder. So for example, we're going to do player pets folder .child added connect to a function. And what this does is basically it just fires every single code in here every time a child is added. And it gives us that child, which will be the pet, obviously. So what we want to do is basically assign an attribute called place to the pet, based on how many pets are already on the folder. So let's just go ahead and make a function, and we're going to call this to add pet attribute, just like this. And then here we're just going to put the pet and the number. So this is going to be very simple, but basically we're going to say if number of player pets folder get children is equal to 1, then pet set attribute place is going to be equal to 1. And we're going to actually replace 1 with number here, just like that. So basically all this function is doing is it's checking how many pets are already in the folder. So let's say that after we add this pet into the folder, there's 1 pet. That means that this is the first pet. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to set the attribute of the place to 1. Let's say it was the 3rd pet that got added, then the place would be 3. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to run this function 9 times. Because 9 is the maximum amount of pets that will be allowed to be in this folder in the first place. So we could do add pet attribute, pet1, and then we're just going to basically do this 9 times. Okay, and so this basically should set up our placement system. And we also want to make it so that whenever a pet gets removed from the folder, that the placements are adjusted to be more accurate since a pet was removed, and their placements will get updated. So, well, this is pretty simple. All we need to do is make a function called set pet attribute, which will take in the pet. And then all we're going to do is we're going to say local pet placement is equal to pet get attribute place. And then we're going to go ahead and go through every single pet in this pet folder. So we'll say for I comma pet in pairs, player pets folder colon get children do. And then we're going to say local current pet placement is equal to pet, just like this, colon get attribute place. And then we're going to say if current pet placement is greater than this pet, the pet that just got removed placement, then we're going to set the pet's attribute of place to the attribute itself -1. So let's go ahead and add this function in of set pet attribute, and then we're going to pass through the pet here. And well, basically all this is doing is it's getting the placement of the pet that's removed, and then it loops through every single pet in the folder. And if there are pets with higher placements than the current pet placement, then it just subtracts 1 from the placement since a pet was removed, and it just resets everything so that everything is nice and simple. So now that we have that working, let's get started on the actual pet movement system. So what we could do is add in another local script, and we'll just rename this to like pet movement. Okay, so now here what we want to do is we want to get the local player, which is just the game.players.local player. And then let's get the character, which is going to be equal to local player.character or local player.character added colon weight. And then let's get the local humanoid root part, which is just going to be the character colon weight for child humanoid root part. Now what we want to get is we want to get the player pets folder. So we'll say local player pets folder is equal to game.workspace colon weight for child player pets. So now let's go ahead and make a function rename, and we're going to rename this to set pet position, just like this. And then we're going to pass through a pet here. We're going to make a while task.wait for 0.01 seconds do loop. And then we're just going to loop through every single pet inside of the player pets folder colon get children. And inside of here, we're going to run a task.spawn function, and we're just going to go ahead and run this function right here. So now this function is basically going to run for every single pet inside of the player pets folder. So what we could do is we need to actually get 9 different positions. So let's make 9 variables. Okay, so we have 9 variables that are renamed to position. And basically the reason why we're doing this is we're basically going to get the pet's place. So let's say for example, the pet place is equal to pet colon get attribute place. Let's say that the place was 6. We would want to set its position to position 6. And let's say that it was 2, we would set it to position 2. That way each pet has its own position based on the place that it is in the folder. So position 1 is going to be equal to humanoid root part dot cframe multiplied by cframe dot new, and then we could put a vector3 dot new in here. And then for the x, we could have it be, we could try 2. The y, we could have 2, and for the z, we'll have 2. And real quick, guys, up here, make sure that this is local player dot character added and not child added. Okay, so now we want to set up the rest of the positions. So position 2 will be equal to, we actually just want to change the x value for position 2, so we can make it like -1. Actually, we can go ahead and make this 0. I think that would look better. And then for position 3, we're just going to go ahead and copy this, and this will be -2. So basically all this is doing is for the first 3 positions, you can kind of think of it as like a row. So the first pet will be in this position, the second pet will be in this position, and the third pet will be in this position. And the only thing that changes in the position is the x-axis. So they'll be kind of like next to each other. And then when we move on to position 4, we're actually going to reset the x to 2. We're going to change the z value to, let's do 4. So now basically it kind of puts the pet behind them instead of next to them, since it is a new column. And then we'll do the same thing for position 5, but we're going to change the x value to 0 again. And then we're going to do the same thing for position 6 and then change it to -2. Now for position 7, we're going to do the same thing, which is reset the x-axis to 2. And then we're going to increase the z-axis to 6. And then we're going to do the same thing for 8 and then make the x value 2 or 0. And then the same thing for position 9 and make the x-axis -2. Okay, so now that we have all of our positions, we're going to make a new variable. We're going to rename this to pet position, and we're going to make this nil. So now basically we just manually have to set this pet position by kind of checking what this attribute is. So what we could do is we're going to have to manually write out, for example, we'll say if pet place is equal to 1, then we'll do pet position is equal to position 1. And then we're going to do this 9 more times for all of the positions. And I forgot to put an end there. There we go. So we're going to do 2, and then we're going to do pet position is equal to 2, end. And then we're going to do the same thing with 3. And now that we have all this set up, basically it's going to take care of this, and it's just going to check the pet placement and then set its position to whichever placement it's at. So now that we have our pet position, what we could do is now we could actually set the C-frame of the pet. So we'll do pet.cframe is equal to pet.cframe colon lerp. And then for the arguments, we want it to lerp to the pet position that we now have. So we'll do pet position. And then for the alpha, we could put like 0.15, for example. I think that would be pretty good. And now we basically have it set up. So as long as we have this function put in here in this task.spawn, and we play the game, let's see what happens. So let's go ahead and add a pet. And as you can see, it kind of fills out into little rows there. And now we have a simple little pet following system. So now let's go ahead and duplicate this part right here. And then we're going to rename this to remove pet. And inside of the script, let's go ahead and change up some things. So every time we click this, we're going to actually delete this line right here. Every time we click this part, and we could actually make this red, we're just going to remove a pet from the player pet folder. So let's go ahead and loop through all the pets. So we're going to say for I comma pet in pairs, game.workspace, wait for child, player pets, colon, get children, do. And then we're just going to do pet colon destroy, and then we're going to do return. That way it only destroys one pet. So let's go ahead and play, and let's go and let's say we have 4 pets here, or no, let's say we have 5 pets, and we click this. As you can see, it now automatically sorts out the pet, and we have a cool little sorting system there. And well guys, that was basically the whole video. I hope you guys learned a lot from this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.